He was the only president from Pennsylvania. He served in the House and Senate and as minister to Russia and to the United Kingdom. He was Secretary of State during the Mexican War and often clashed with President Polk over the question of territorial expansion. Having sought and been denied the Democratic presidential nomination several times, he was finally nominated, denying renomination to President Pierce. In his term in office, he sided with Southern leaders over the expansion of slavery. When South Carolina seceded after the election of Abraham Lincoln, he held that secession was illegal, but the federal government was powerless to stop it. After turning over the reins of government to Lincoln, he retired to his estate in Pennsylvania and wrote his memoirs defending his administration's actions. He is our nation's 15th chief executive, James Buchanan. Let's take a look at a map of Pennsylvania and some sites associated with James Buchanan. Buchanan was born in south central Pennsylvania in a place called Cove Gap, right down here in this area. If you go there today, there is a state park there, and there's a small stone monument marking the location where Buchanan was born. The actual cabin that he was born in was moved to nearby Mercersburg. It's on Mercersburg Academy's grounds, and that can be visited as well. Buchanan lived most of his life in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that's where his estate Wheatland can be visited and toured. And Buchanan is buried in Woodward Hill Cemetery in Lancaster. Now let's take a look at some photographs of these locations. Now let's take a look at some books in my library relating to the life and times of James Buchanan. The first is a book that was published in 2019. It's by Thomas J. Balcerski. It's called Bosom Friends, The Intimate World of James Buchanan and William Rufus King. King was a senator from the state of Alabama, and he actually was elected vice president in 1852 with Franklin Pierce. He died very shortly after his inauguration. But this book covers the friendship of these two and their careers in Washington over several decades, during the time that both of them served in Congress, the time that Buchanan was Secretary of State during the Mexican War, right up through King's death and then Buchanan's presidency. This is a small booklet that I got many years ago at Wheatland. It's called The Life and Times of Mr. Buchanan, a story that might have been told by his faithful housekeeper and friend, Miss Hetty Parker. So it tells the story of Buchanan's life through the eyes of his housekeeper. This is a good book about the election of 1856. Buchanan's opponent in the election was John C. Fremont, who was nominated by the Republican Party. It was the Republicans' first nomination for the presidency. And this book's called Lincoln's Pathfinder, John C. Fremont and the Violent Election of 1856. It tells the story of that year and tells a lot about Fremont, but Buchanan figures in the story as well. A couple of other books about things going on during the time period. The first is John Brown's Raid. The raid in Harper's Ferry occurred in 1859 during the Buchanan administration. This book is published by the National Park Service. It was published in 2017. And it tells the story of John Brown's raid, has all kinds of nice photographs and graphics. Another important figure who begins to become important during this period in the 1850s is Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist and editor. There was a biography that came out that was published in 2018 by David Blight. It's called Frederick Douglass, Prophet of Freedom, and it covers Douglass's entire fascinating life. Our next episode will focus on our nation's 16th president, Abraham Lincoln.